The bus moves on, and so does time. Genevieve has returned to sit with her friend, and so has Ben. Gazing out the window, Frank sees huge piles of tailings. They are very high and pointed at the top. They are probably as big and as high as Egyptian pyramids. Like almost everyone else on the bus, he knows that all this waste rock comes from the nearby nickel mines. The bus is not far from Sudbury, and all around them is barren ground where no grass peeps through and no trees or bushes grow. To add to the depressing scene, it starts to drizzle. Strangely enough, all of this makes Frank remember his dream of going to Niagara Falls with Genevieve. Looking out the window, he sighs and wishes he were somewhere else. "What a drag," he finally says to his friend. "You'd think they would find a better route for a bus to take across Canada." At this point, Ben looks up and glances briefly out the window. Then he quickly returns his attention to his book. Pretty soon it is no longer drizzling, but raining steadily. When Frank gets tired of looking out the window, he looks over at Genevieve and Minot. Both of them have huge university texts on their laps, and both have big green apples in their hands. Both are so immersed in their university texts that their apples practically go uneaten. "What's got into you?" Frank says finally to his friend. "You haven't said a word since we left Sault Ste. Marie." "Oh, really?" says Ben. "Yes, really," says Frank. "Really," says Ben again. "Yes, really, really." "Oh, really," says Ben. "All I can say is, listen to the pot calling the kettle black." After looking out the window for a while, and then looking over at Genevieve and Minot once again with their uneaten green apples, Frank says to Ben, "I've really fallen for her, but I know I'm not in her league. She's going to graduate in a couple of years and be a criminal lawyer." Ben continues to sulk. He continues to ignore Frank. Although the latter doesn't appreciate this, he keeps his cool. He doesn't get angry. He knows that Ben has some justification for acting as he does. The two of them have always been the very best of friends and have always confided in one another. They've never held anything back from each other. But for the last little while, Frank hasn't been very talkative. He hasn't communicated much to Ben. He hasn't let him know much about what he's been thinking. He realizes that his friend is peeved by this and probably wants to give him a taste of his own medicine. "Look, I'm sorry if I haven't been the best company lately," Frank says finally. "It's just that a lot of thoughts have been coming into my head that I've never had before." Glancing one more time at Genevieve, who is looking at her apple thoughtfully, and one more time at Ben, who continues to read his Asterix comic book. It's the fourth one he has borrowed from the 10-year-old boy. He continues, "When I think about where I'm going in life compared to where Genevieve is going, I feel about as cheery as I do when I look out this window." No sooner do these words pass his lips than the bus suddenly slows down, and to the amazement of everyone on it, comes up to the back end of a parade. No musical bands are to be seen or heard, however, and no one marches dressed up in a smart-looking uniform or prances about in a funny-looking costume. Instead, there are just floats representing various companies and industries. Everyone on the bus starts shouting and jumping to their feet when they see the huge float right in front of them. It has an immense Canadian nickel on it that's about 30 feet in diameter and, like a huge globe, rotates every 30 or 40 seconds. At the same time, dozens of people, all of them wearing raincoats or else standing under umbrellas, are lined up on both sides of the street. When they see the Greyhound bus following right behind the float with the Canadian nickel, some smile and wave. No one seems to be particularly surprised that the bus has joined the parade. The rain is coming down in buckets now, and it is strange to see these people watching the bus as it goes by.